Welcome to the show. You know where you are. Expert Talk with Tigo. Yeah, me, Tigo. And today, as always, I bring really great entrepreneurs who have really cool businesses. But here's what's special. Today, I'm bringing someone who's creative, like me, who thinks of amazing cool stuff, has made several businesses, knows her stuff. Let me tell you. And as funny as all get out, today we've got Wanda Toro Turini. And she teased me about the name because she knew I was going to mess it up, but I got it. Wanda Toro Turini is here and coming up next. So sit right there. We'll be right back.
Expert Talk is brought to you in part by PodNation TV, the podcast to broadcast network. Expert Talk is produced and distributed by Melrose 11 LLC. Lights, cameras, take action with Melrose 11.
Hey, Wanda, welcome to the show.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you here. We had the opportunity to chat. What was supposed to be, 10 minutes? I think we were supposed to talk. Like 2 hours later, we were going, has it been 2 hours?
Not in our world.
Now, you love building businesses and being an entrepreneur just like I do. You swim with the sharks, you have a great time, and even the background that's behind you is something that you actually invented, I believe. So what makes you tick? What was the very first business you ever created?
Ooh, wow. That's a good one, Tigo. Well, I will say that like the first official business was when I left my big pharma job back in 2005, and I had all these ideas, ideas that in the big corporate world, sometimes they don't really like you to have ideas, even though they want to be innovative and such, but having ideas is sometimes makes you a problem child. So from how far I can remember, like I've always had this vision of how to improve things. And honestly, Tigo, I thought it was a disease. I would actually say I have something wrong with me because I would see something, and if it could use improvement, it would be like, how can I improve that? And it was kind of annoying because I couldn't shut it off. I just had way too many ideas. And I have come to realize with many coaches and support that I am a visionary, but I didn't know that I was more of a problem in the corporate world. So I started, in the healthcare industry. I have a doctorate in pharmacy, so I'm like super duper nerd. I'm there in the healthcare industry. I'm in pharmaceutical marketing and sales, and I had all of these different ideas of how we can better improve our communication with patients and healthcare professionals and such. And it was just like a little too much, to the point where even though the company I was working with, honestly, they put up with me for a long time. They were very, very supportive of me, but it wasn't fast enough. And so I actually started my first company with the vision of incubating these innovative ideas and finally transforming them into sustainable businesses, to stop like having them just sitting in my brain and work. And my focus for many, many years was the healthcare industry, because that's kind of what I knew.
Right.
But that evolved over time. It did.
So let's talk about that for a second, because there's a young man or a young lady out there that's watching this and they're going, that's me. She's talking to me. I've always got these great ideas and I don't know what to do with them. And, I'm debating on whether or not I should continue my education or if I should go down the entrepreneurial road. You've done both. You're Dr. Wonder on one side and this, just fun person, creative person on the other side that creates all these really cool businesses. So what made you decide now's the time for me to go to school and pursue this?
Whew.
And then, wait a minute, maybe I should shift over, even though I already have my doctorate, I'm already in my career. Maybe I need to shift over because my path is telling me to go this way. How did you know to do that?
I mean, it's more painful having had your career and your doctorate degree and all that jazz, because how I got there was because my family struggled financially. My dad worked his ass off to keep us in middle class, lower middle class. Sorry, I get a little emotional. I remember when my dad was like, instead of living in apartments, we need to own something. And he drove us to a lot where there was an old mobile home, like a very old mobile home. And he said, this is going to be our castle. And I was obnoxious and like 12 at the time, and I'm like, we're going to live in a mobile home, and my father was so proud of that because that was the first thing that he ever owned. Right. And he said to us, he was like, well, you see what it looks like now, but location, right? So then he goes off on this thing. What we're going to do is we're going to put this on a good lot, and then we're going to make the lot really nice, and then that will increase the value. Now, in most cases, like 99% of cases, mobile homes do not increase in value. They're considered just like cars. They decline immediately. So we took that mobile home, and I remember painting it with him and putting the skirting on it, and he got a corner lot in I think it was like a 10 home mobile home park. And he had that corner lot, and he put a garden and everything. And I think he bought it for like $6,000 or something like that. And he sold it for $20,000.
Go ahead, Pops. That's awesome.
Back then. But I reflected on that experience of, reflecting back as to how embarrassed I was of that, and how much of an accomplishment that was for my dad. Now I look at it, I'm like, holy crap. I mean, my parents grew up in like Hell's Kitchen and like just all the stuff. But anyway, the point is that, the road to success for my dad was he got a college degree like when he already had kids. Like there was no support when he was little, like in the ghetto. You know what I mean? To be like, if he said he wanted to go to college, like it was like, well, good luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, go get a job because you're not staying here, right? So in my mind, it was just like, well, I get out of this. I can carry on all the work that my dad did to get us to this level. I can get us to the next level by going to school and going to school longer, right? So I guess, what's interesting is I went to pharmacy school to be a lawyer, to be a pharmaceutical lawyer, because I had somebody in my family that had said, well, why don't you be a specialized lawyer?
Attorney, right?
Yeah. And to me, an attorney was dramatic. It was like, objection, and I'm thinking like, I'm a dramatic person. I could totally like run the courtrooms, right? And yeah, law is not like that. But I was very good at science.
Wait, it's not like Law and Order?
No, exactly. No.
No? Oh, okay.
I would have to have somebody walk around behind me like playing like,
and I can see you doing that. I truly can see you creating something that when you open your briefcase, it went da-dum, like That would be so cool. Okay, never mind.
I'm sorry, I digress. But the point is like when you're in that situation, the only path to success is to go to school and to
Yeah.
get a higher paying job. And literally in high school, all I dreamed about was wearing a suit and carrying around a leather briefcase. That was like my dream. So I'm like, oh, I could work for the pharmaceutical industry, or, you know, all this like stuff. I go to pharmacy school. I'm doing good in
Mhm.
pharmacy school. I take some law classes. Horrible. But but I persevered and I pushed through. I mean, I went through a lot. I failed out of pharmacy school and I
Oh,
came
wow.
back and all that jazz. I finally finished. And now here I have my doctorate degree because that's what we do to get out of
Okay.
being poor, right? Or
And then
lower
you
middle
turn
class, right?
right and
And
left your
then,
doctorate behind
yeah, and then
and
I'm
started
making,
businesses.
yeah, and I'm making buku bucks in this corporation, and I realized that my heart's not happy. What the hell? Finally, I mean, I have the money. I could send my parents off to Spain, and I was financially free. Technically, I was like on a really, really good financial path. Had an awesome sports car and everything, but my heart wasn't happy. I knew that there was more, and man, is that a pain in the ass feeling to because I should have been set, you know? And but part of it is because in that environment, I didn't have any other examples of entrepreneurship and getting
Right.
out of that cycle, right? The
It's like
only,
the great secret, man. If you come up with a working class family, or in your case, a professional family, it's the great secret. You see stuff on television, and now with the internet, it's more like in your face about entrepreneurs. I mean, when I was growing up, you saw the Entrepreneur magazine, and you flipped through it and went, "Wow, people make money doing this? Get out!" You know. But
how
nobody
did they
in
get
your
there?
environment, yeah, nobody in your environment actually did that. So when you start talking to your friends and your family, at least for me, about being an entrepreneur and starting businesses, they were like, what's wrong with you? My father's favorite famous phrase that he said all the time is, "Kid, I know everybody marches to a different drummer, but what dang band plays in your head? This stuff doesn't work." And I'm like, "No, Dad, you don't understand. So you do this, so you do that." So I totally can relate. But let me ask you something, because you have little ones now.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Mm.
Dad went to college after he already had children, and he discovered his entrepreneurial spirit from the trailer. You know, that starts right there, right?
Yes.
So then you come along and you get your doctorate, and then you say, "My heart's not happy." And you figure out, I'm supposed to be free. I'm supposed to be doing my own path, blazing my own trail, and creating all these really cool. And yeah. Before you ask, we're getting to it. We're getting to it. We're going to talk about what businesses she's created. You know, creating all of these really cool businesses. You
Mm.
know, now your kids are coming along. Is mom saying you got to go to college first? Or if they say, "Nope, I want to be an entrepreneur. I know the business I want to start. This is what I want to do." How's mom feeling about it? How's dad feeling about it?
Ooh, so I mean, my husband's super smart. He's a mechanical engineer. He has an MBA. Like he's super duper smart as well. I just said as well. Ew, I just called myself super. We're both nerds, let's say together. Um, but it's interesting. There's a little, I wouldn't call it a battle, but I'm not certain about the path of going to college because like right now or at least pushing it, I there's a lot of value of in college of like socializing, being on your own, not being under your parents' roof. I think that there is a downside to people to kids or the younger people living with their parents for so long right now. I mean, I left my
Mhm.
house at 17 years old.
Me
um
too.
you know, so and I think there's a lot to say in the experiences that you have in relating with other people versus staying in your pod for so long. So I think I would definitely encourage my daughter to leave, although and my son,
She's
but
already crying.
but I think I would encourage them to leave for those purposes, maybe even travel for a year before they determine what they want to go to school for. But the idea of going to school to check off the box is it doesn't sit well with me. I would rather that they spend some time to kind of understand what their unique talents are. And I didn't have that ability to do that. Like, I always knew that I was theatrical in nature.
No,
I
really?
wa- I wanted to be a performer, but I literally decided, no, I don't want to live on macaroni and cheese. Like yeah, like that was my view of it. And I was like, my dad worked his ass off to get us to this point, and I felt like I'm responsible for like
Carrying the
carrying that
torch.
on, carrying
Yep.
the torch, right?
Yep.
Creating a better environment for my children so that we could go forward. There's a little bit of a mix for that, because part of the challenges that we had is what created me. And then meanwhile, my daughter, like, I'm trying to, really encourage her concept of like earning things. And she'll just say like, oh no, I don't need to work for that because Mima will give that to me, or daddy or mommy will give that to me, or for my, and I'm like, oh
Oh
no.
no.
So we're in the process of fixing that. But it's interesting how, if you want to create a better environment for your children, you're also stripping them of the challenges that made you who you are. And so
Yeah, for me,
I'm
it's knee pads on a bicycle. I mean, when I grew up, you didn't have helmets, you didn't have knee pads, which could explain a lot of the problems I may be having right now. But you didn't have any of that. You went out and you rode. You went out and you
yeah,
rode. You got scrapes. That's what you're supposed to do. But now the kids get wrapped in like bubble wrap almost, and they go out there
yeah,
and they don't get that experience of having to be injured or surviving stress or anything like that. And I
yeah.
go, okay, so now you're going to get to be an adult and there will be no safety nets and no security. What are you going to do then? You never learned as a kid how to work your way through that,
Mm,
diversity and devastations and what you thought was the end of the world, which was really just a scar on your knee, and it becomes a great
yeah,
story you get to tell for the rest of your life. That's what
yeah.
happened.
It's like, you gotta have
You
those
never get to do
stories.
that. Yeah, you never get to do that. So let me ask you, because I'm assuming, you
Mm,
know, that, yeah, I know it makes an ass out of you and Umi, but not me. I'm assuming that you are having the choices conversation with your children, that they have choices and they have opportunities and that they don't have to think traditionally and all of that. But there are people out there, especially young people, like you said, like me, like you, that didn't have someone in their corner that was saying, if you want to go for it, go for it. They're
yeah,
going, no. Like my dad said, he was a union man. There's the good jobs in the union. Go get a union job. That's all he wanted to hear, was I was going to work the union.
yeah.
Um, what would you say to that person that doesn't have that support right now, but they know they're meant to be a dancer or an entrepreneur or a performer? What would you say?
Yeah, I think it's way easier now to find your people, right? So with Facebook, with social media in general, there's a group out there for everything, right?
Mhm.
So it's easier to connect with people that have similar dreams and desires, because now you realize that you're not alone, that you're not the weirdo, right? So what happens is that, when we didn't have that ability, for me, I came to realize that my grandfather and my great grandfather were entrepreneurs. I mean, they were in Puerto Rico. My grandfather owned a bar. My great grandfather, he had like a farm, and he would like, sell the coconuts and the plátanos and, all that stuff. Right. Um, so it was all standard. I wouldn't say any of it was like innovative, but I didn't quite get to ever speak to them about it to understand if it was a choice or a desire,
Right,
if it was a desire, or if it was just like that's how they had to live, right?
right.
So that was a little different there. But coming back to kids, because I didn't have anybody that was an example of like how to like live differently or out loud, then I just follow that standard path. So the biggest thing is community. And I would say that to entrepreneurs today. Entrepreneurship can be really, really lonely, especially when you're surrounded by most people that aren't entrepreneurs, right?
Yep.
So people love you and they're going to tell you that you're freaking crazy and you shouldn't do something, because they want to protect you, because they don't
Yep.
know any better, right? Because they see a small percentage of people succeed, quote unquote, right? And so they just want to keep you safe. And so you have to kind of connect with other people that are in that uncomfortable zone, because together you'll be able to break the paradigm, right? So that's what I would say is most important. Now, you just dug into a little bit of a secret desire for me, is to ultimately start a foundation for children that are in low economic, income environments, to actually help give them examples of what entrepreneurship is like, because it is the key. It's the freaking key to get out. And there aren't that many people when you're in that environment to show you the way. So you just think that what's around you is all you got.
Yeah, and what you see on television on your streets is all you got. I totally agree with that. So I'm going to get in trouble if we don't go to break. I mean, I'm going to get that look of what the heck is going on. So we're going to treat this like this was Dr. Wanda's part of the interview. And then when we come back, we're going to hit that entrepreneurial spirit that is truly the new Wanda, the entrepreneur Wanda. So just sit right there. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We talked to Dr. Wanda in the first half of the show. Now we're going to talk to the entrepreneur Wanda on the other side. This lady has come up with some really cool ways to promote your business, because if you're not being seen, you're not being heard, as my grandmother used to say, whispering down a well, that could be why your business isn't growing. So Wanda's figured out ways to help you do that. So let's catch up with her. All right, Wanda, well, let's put Dr. Wanda away. Let's talk about this.
I should have put my hair up in a bun and then let it out for this side of the show.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Okay, we should retake it. No, I'm kidding. No, let's keep going. Let's keep going. So what made you step out on your own, make that decision, other than your heart wasn't happy? Because a lot of people spend 40 years, 50 years in a job that their heart's not happy, but they don't have the nerve to step out there. What made you decide, that's it, I'm out, I'm going to go do my thing? And what was the first thing you did?
Yeah. So the big thing was thankfully I was put on this leadership accelerator track, and I was being mentored and all that jazz. And so I was supposed to kind of come back within the organization. I was on working as a sales rep for like 18 months. I was supposed to come back as a director, lead a team, all that stuff. Right. And I realized I'm responsible, once you become a director of a team, that I'm responsible for their culture and their happiness, right? And if I'm not happy, then how are they going to be happy? And that was very important to me, because I had worked with awesome managers, right? And I had worked with really not so great managers that probably weren't happy with where they were, right? And I realized how much of an influence I could have on people's lives with that. And so I thought, if you have this in your heart, you're going to go back to this big responsibility job now, because that they've nurtured you for, and you're going to be a shitty manager because it's not where you want to be.
Ooh, okay.
And that was my thing. And I'm like, I need to try something. Now, what the problem was, that working for a big corporation, I couldn't have something on the side, because to me, I had a lot of software ideas and innovative ideas that could potentially be proprietary. And when you work for a large organization, sometimes you sign something that says, if you invented it while you worked for us. Yeah. So I had to keep it locked up in my brain for so long. And then finally I decided, and it was interesting. I mean, I cried when I had to tell my mentor, thank you so much for investing so much time in me, but I feel like I need to do this. And she said, I always knew you were going to have your own business. My job was to keep you here as long as possible. And I was like,
wow.
Really?
Wow. Now you tell me,
And now you tell
wow.
me. So anyway, so I just leave and I had too many ideas. Honestly, I had too many ideas. I had like a software that was to help like sales representatives better sell to healthcare professionals and teach them. Um, and I was working on that, and it was too many things. And then I started consulting for another software company, and I learned very quickly that you have to pick one thing. And that's very difficult for me because I had all this like pent up desire, but anyway, one of the more like stable things for me to do after I kind of went a little renegade and lost a little bit too much money was to consult for this software that was building software for the pharmaceutical industry. And then I realized that there was an opportunity to build consulting around this. And so I started specializing in this area, and I wound up having to speak a lot in front of live audiences. And it was interesting because it was frustrating to see all those people with like the glimmer in their eye. And, I was always like walking in and out of the aisles. I'm super, super active. And then I see people engaged and like taking notes and taking pictures of my slides. And then friggin' nobody or hardly anybody would follow up with me afterwards. Right? Like we
Mm.
commonly tell them like, oh, come and talk to me afterwards, or come to my exhibit booth, or whatever. And it was really, really frustrating. And so I came to the point where I wanted to speak at one particular conference that was like chock full of my people. And in order to get on stage, I had to pay $10,000 to speak.
Oof.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh no, I need to have a good ROI for this experience, or else I'm a small business. I was competing against like Deloitte and Touche, PricewaterhouseCooper. Like they could like shell out 10,000. They don't care, like
Right. Yeah,
whatever, right?
for lunch, for
Yeah,
lunch,
yeah,
they could do that.
exactly. But
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, paying it in pennies,
Crying.
you know, I need to make it work. So I'm going to pause there and rewind. One of my crazy, brilliant ideas back in 2007, I was at a conference, a very large medical conference. And at the end of that conference, they were cleaning up. It was McCormick Place in Chicago.
Know
You know
that
what I'm
very
talking-
well. I have my high
Yes,
school graduation there. Yep.
there. Humongous
Yep.
exhibit centers. And they literally were backing in a dump truck to pick up all of the marketing materials and brochures and white papers and stuff that were not picked up at the conference.
Wow.
And it was literally, it was a human climbable mountain of brochures. And I'm not like naturally like a crunchy person. I'm like eco aware, but it was disturbing. And I realized, wait a second, people are throwing this out. He wasn't recycling it. That was going to the trash.
Mm-hmm.
As a pharmaceutical marketer, I spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on printed materials, realizing I don't even know if they went to the garbage or in somebody's hand.
Right.
And then for all of us that have been at these conferences where we carry all the brochures and we're like, I like this information, but it's inconvenient. So you throw it out, right?
Right.
So in comes Nerdo Wanda, and I can't help it. I'm like, I have to solve this problem. And that day I named it Eco Files. My thought was, we need an eco-friendly way to distribute files of information. This paper is friggin' old school, man. I mean,
Right.
when you print out a brochure, it's out of date the moment you print it. And then
Yep.
if you want to send somebody an update, you don't know who the hell picked up that brochure, right? And meanwhile, I was in the healthcare space. So this was very important to me, having been a critical care pharmacist. I did a lot of patient education, and I knew how important it was for patients, for example, to have those patient brochures, and how important it would be to be able to update them when things were new. So I called it Eco Files. And over 2 years, I looked at the different technologies that I could use to deliver eco-friendly content. I looked at QR codes and apps and all this stuff. And I settled on texting because texting was easy. Like no matter what phone you had, you could have had a clamshell phone, the old school phones, or a
Oh yeah.
smartphone, you know,
Mhm.
anything you could text. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if you just text a keyword and you would instantly get that piece of information in your email. So now you could read it when you want to, you could reference it, you could forward it to people. And then guess what? The company that you texted from could send you an update when there's
Because
new
now they got your
information
phone number.
and your email address. So they could say,
Yeah.
hey, there's an update to this. Now, I had a background in oncology and cancer treatments. So this rung really strongly for me. Imagine, cancer patients that are looking for new treatments and to be able to be proactively updated, right? Versus having to search online, like if they just engage with somebody quickly and stuff. So I digress in the sense that was like my initial purpose, but that was in 2009. And when I started presenting it to pharmaceutical companies and other large companies, they were like, wow, this is cool, but only teenagers text.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And my dreams were crushed because I had a vision of reducing this paper waste, of being of
Mm-hmm.
greater service to people, of being able to actually help these companies stop from creating 100-page brochures and now creating connections with their audiences and dripping content in like consumable formats, like 5 pages here and there, right? To really be of greater service. And it failed. I tried and tried, and nobody was interested in being an early adopter enough. And I put it on the shelf. But
I gotta ask
I,
you, it's 2021 and everybody's texting now. So did you pull it off the shelf? Is it
yeah,
is it
well,
something you're using? I mean, I hope you didn't leave it there on the shelf.
not at all, because in 2011, when I had to pay that $10,000, let's imagine it in slow-mo, right? And I thought, bing, but I have ego files, and maybe I can invite my audience to text for my slides at least, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what the hell? It was just sitting there. It was a very expensive toy at this point. And so I thought maybe that's what will make my $10,000 worth it. So the first freaking time that I offered back in 2011, I offered an audience the opportunity to text for my slides. 25% of my audience texted, and that was more leads than I had gotten in the previous 3 years going to these conferences and exhibiting and such. And I was like, oh. So Nerdo Wanda says, okay, there's got to be a better way. And over the next year or so, I started to refine, like, how is it that I verbalize this keyword? How was it that I presented it physically? When in the presentation did I do it? And 76% of my audience would text for my keyword every single time I spoke. And I knew I had something there.
Yeah, that's magic. That's
Yeah.
magic. So now do you offer this to other people?
Yeah.
Can they
Yeah.
can they use it today?
Yeah.
So
So
how, when, where, what do they do? Because
yeah.
somebody's going, I'm speaking next week. Can I
Yeah,
get it?
exactly. Well, eco files didn't make sense from a branding perspective. And, on another show, we'll talk about how I went into a deep meditation, but ultimately wound up calling the service Catch, or Ketchwords. So now I'm going to show this on the screen. I don't know if people are also just listening audio wise, but now what we do is we help impact driven, service driven experts who love to share their expertise, right? I feel like the me's, right? Like I loved speaking because I love to see that glimmer in their eye. I love to see people say, wow, you really taught me something, right? So I help those people actually connect with those anonymous fans in the audience, because those people are anonymous to you. And so what we do is we help them create what it is somebody's going to text for, right? Which I call a value bomb. That's really important, because if you have something crappy, then people aren't going to text for it, right?
Right, right.
And then we go through a strategic process to figure out what's going to be this really appetizing offer that is not a lead magnet, by the way, because a lead magnet attracts somebody that's a cold person. the assumption is this is an extension of the value that you have provided through your live appearance. Okay.
Okay.
So we strategically look at it differently. We say, okay, what are you going to be talking about in the front? And then on the back end, what are you going to offer? So for example, I'm offering this guide on how to transform your talk into a lead gen machine. It's the strategies that I had to put together, and I hooked those strategies onto the technology, but it's those strategies that literally turned every single time I spoke into a lead gen machine, right? And so the audience could actually receive those strategies by texting leads, LEADS, to 411321 if they're in the US. If they're international, they could actually text leads to +1 909 741 1321, right? So that's the number. You text leads, and then we'll ask you for your email address, because of course we need to send you something, right? And so it uniquely gets delivered as a text, an email, and an attachment, Tigo, with that little paper clip, and it makes a difference. That's proprietary to us. Our open rates on these emails are 150%, which means
they share it with somebody, right? They're sharing it.
Yes. Or on average, they open it 1.5 times on average. So that's a lot of visibility. And that would make sense because you're creating something that's of value. You want people to reference it, right? So looking at those numbers, you're actually able to, I mean, we've had some healthcare clients that had like over 600% open rates. And so that just shows that the piece of content was of great value to that audience member, and that, like you said, it was probably shared a lot as well. So that's how, like, all that experience, what was once Eco Files is now Catch and Ketchwords, and our program is really about helping people realize that visibility is so important in their business, but helping them optimize that visibility by catching those ideal prospects in their audience.
That's crazy. So let me ask you, I got a couple of questions before I let you get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, do you have to be a certain size business? Is there a limit to being too small or too big? Like, you handle 10 Texas or 10 million Texas? Is there a limit?
There's no limit. There's no limit. We help solopreneurs, coaches, et cetera. And then we've also helped very large organizations communicate. The large organization side, I've spent more time in healthcare. So there was a lot of work there. And honestly, my work is not done. My desires of trying to improve how healthcare organizations educate patients and healthcare professionals is going to keep me pushing to bring it back to healthcare. But healthcare was really, they're so traditional that they weren't the ideal first early adopters.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
So I switched over to entrepreneurs, but also because it transformed my life. Like I was able to make $4.2 million in that consulting business because of the high quality leads that I got from using my catchword, right? So it afforded me the opportunity to actually say, I don't think I want to do this. I want to pivot, right? To be able to earn that much money means a lot of different things to different people, right? I mean, I got my 6-figure salary back finally. But I was able to pivot and do something that I desired to do more. But even more beautiful was I was able to invest over $100,000 in my fertility journey to get my babies, to allow me, that was,
you have beautiful babies.
Thank you. I was in my late 40s when I was finally able to start my family. And I feel very fortunate because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to do 10 rounds of IVF and all this medical stuff to be able to have children. And I'm blessed, but it's because I was able to really efficiently connect with the right people and to obviously convert them, into clients. And so my mission is to kind of teach other people to do that too, because it could really change their lives.
Yeah, it can. So before I let you go, tell me this.
Yeah.
I know that, if you have a phone service where you get charged per text, which I don't even know if they're still around. I think everybody pretty much has unlimited everything for the most part. But if you do, then the person may encounter a fee or whatever pennies that is for that. But is there a certain charge package on the other side as the business that's receiving the texts? Do you have packages, or is it just, if it's 1 or 10 million, it's the same fee?
Yeah, so we have flat packages for entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And I know at a certain point I'm going to cap it, but right now my goal is to actually get a catchword out to as many people as possible. Anybody who is committed to showing up should have a catchword, because if you're not, I'm going to take this off for a second. If you don't have a catchword, then you're losing out on the opportunity to connect with that anonymous fan. And one of those people alone could be a client, could be somebody that really, really needs you. And that could have been the person that heard you on that TV show, that heard you on the podcast, that saw you at that conference and intended to connect with you. They really did, but life passes them by, right? So if you offer them a catchword when they're primed, when you've really motivated them and you're gifting them content that's going to help them move along that journey, you're being of service to them immediately. And then you also have the opportunity to make sure that they don't forget that there was an intention there, that they wanted to transform something in their lives, right? And we all know that it's important to be reminded, because life gets in the way, and even the things that we wanted to do, we don't get to do them.
Yeah, life's what happens when you're making other plans. Do you get one short code and then unlimited keywords, or do you issue them different short codes to match the keywords that you're giving
Oh,
them?
she's using the jargon. So we own 411321. That's us. That's
Okay.
our platform.
Okay.
And there's a lot of tech compliance work that goes on behind the scenes here. Okay. We work as an agency. So our clients basically buy a program that has a catchword, and then they could start adding catchwords after that. But there's a lot of strategy around it. But we also design these backgrounds. We design the call to action. We design the actual PDFs. We'll design what we call catch cards, so that when you're actually in front of an audience, you have something to physically give them. Because we have found, because I'm a nerd, we have found that if you physically give an audience something, if they hear it, they visually see it, and they have it in front of them, it increases the response rate, right? So I did a lot of work in figuring out how to optimally deliver this. And so we work as an agency because that's what corporations get. So why shouldn't small businesses get the elite service of an agency?
The perks.
So,
yes,
yeah.
exactly.
So,
So how do they find you again? Where do they go? Tell me the truth. How did they get you? Somebody's going, I want to do this now. What do they do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you should text leads to 411321. It is going to give you a link to go to Ketchwords.com, but you could also go to Ketchwords.com directly, KETCHWORDS.com, right? And you could check it out. But this allows you to actually experience what your audience can experience. This is really important. I find that once somebody texts a catchword, they realize, like, wow, it looks gorgeous. We work really, really hard on making sure that we help you show up like a pro, right? And I have a lot of passion around this, and my focus is about results. So I want people to recognize that they have to do no tech, no design work. All that they have to do is show up their brilliant self. They have to write their content, because they're the people that
or
have
spend a good paycheck trying to get it written. That's how it works.
Yeah. Although we're developing a team of writers that would help you too. But the point is for you to stay in your zone of genius, and ultimately get to a point where you just show up, focus on showing up, and we're the engine that's behind you to make sure that you catch those ideal prospects, those
Look
anonymous
at what she
fans.
said. Make sure you catch those.
Yeah.
Did you see that? I saw that. So is this US based only, or can people from other countries use it? What's the limits?
People from other countries can use it, because we just launched this long code that is accessible from all nations, all countries. So that's why we added this recently. So only US people can text 411321, but anybody, even in the US and outside of the US, can text to +1 909 741 132.
Or as they call the long tail code.
Yeah, they call it a long code. And it's very important. You may have a lot of people that have seen people using textable keywords, right? And the past 2 or 3 years, it's come about, and I will admit, I got really upset at first. I was like, damn it, I've been doing this since 2007. Yeah, But what I love is that people are finally realizing what the potential is, but I am an expert in ensuring that you wield the full power of the technology, and that's my mission. So yeah, so come in and get in a Tesla. Stop driving that Pinto. Get in a Tesla.
I love it. And literally, I mean, I can answer the next question. And that's somebody saying if they want to do this in German or Spanish or Cantonese or Mandarin or something, it really doesn't matter because the numbers are the same. It's the content that they write, right?
Yeah. Now, I will say that when they first opt in and we ask for their email address, that is in English, and it currently isn't in other languages, and we are looking at that. But the content that you provide could be in a different language. So
Awesome.
that would be something where, we're used to working with large organizations as well, but we would talk about that. Now, of course, when we work with large corporations, they have a very different pricing structure because we do a lot more, for them. We really take care of like everything. And there's a lot more active reporting and analysis of the data and such because they'll get larger volumes of data. But it's really interesting to be able to see the data when people are opening things, how many times they open is really important. For our corporate clients, they typically will have multiple catchwords. So it's interesting to see like, oh, the one that was opened 600%, right? Versus the one that was opened 200%, like what's the difference, and understanding. It could really give you a lot of information on segmentation.
Okay, I understand that. And as I sit here thinking we're on video, we're on audio, people are watching and listening right now. You could also link to a video file, correct? Or you could listen to an audio file?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yep. So whatever can be attached. So I've had some artists, like musical artists, that have used a catchword in a concert situation, right? Because this is the other thing. When you ask people to follow you on a social media platform, you don't own that followership, that following, right? And the algorithms actually judge whether those people see your post or not, right? So for artists, if they share their catchword, they're actually owning that follower, that following, and their following will see they can get 150% open rates on their emails, right? That's so much bigger than just being on a social media platform. So it's a great opportunity to connect with your audience on a stage. And then my point was that one of the artists offered like an exclusive kind of cover as an attachment, as like their gift, right? So from his perspective, it wasn't their value bomb wasn't an educational piece. It was a piece of their music, but they kept it exclusive to their VIP,
Okay, well,
followers.
that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Wanda, and thank you, Entrepreneur Wanda, for coming on and hanging out with me and sharing a little bit. I mean, yeah, I think it's awesome what you're doing, and I can't wait to see what the next phase is because I know you got 15 other things cooking in there. You are amazing.
Thank you.
You are absolutely amazing. Hey, everybody, you know how we do. I bring experts, I bring authorities, I bring experts who are authorities onto the show, share a little bit, blaze the trail so you guys know which direction is open, where you're going to hit some speed bumps, and where that path to grow is straight in front of you. I'm Tigo as always, and I'll talk to you next time.